In the spring of 1950, a young American walked into a storefront recruiting office and signed up for an organization that Congress was openly debating whether to abolish. The Marine Corps had been cut by roughly 90% since the end of the Second World War. Another major reduction was already scheduled for the following year. The argument in Washington was blunt. The Army fought on land, the Navy sailed the ships. What exactly was left for the Marines? 8 months later, that same young man was standing in a mountain pass in North Korea in 35 degrees below zero, surrounded by 120,000 Chinese soldiers who had been given a written order by Mao Zedong himself. Destroy the 1st Marine Division. This is the story of what it was actually like to be a United States Marine in 1950. The recruiting office, the paycheck, the boots, the food, the cold, and the homecoming that almost nobody showed up for. Walking into that recruiting office was simple in a way that would be illegal now. You were 17 with a parent's signature or 18 without one. You stripped down in a room full of strangers, a Navy doctor checked your teeth and your feet and your hearing, and you raised your right hand. Some men were in uniform inside a week. Nobody asked what you wanted from your life. There was a body, and the Corps needed bodies. Then, on the 25th of June, 10 divisions of the North Korean People's Army crossed the 38th parallel, and every argument about whether the Marine Corps should exist ended overnight. Where you trained came down to a line on a map. Recruits from east of the Mississippi went to Paris Island in South Carolina. Everyone west of it went to San Diego. You lost your name. You lost your hair. You lost the right to say the word I, because a recruit did not say I, a recruit said this recruit. The rifle was the center of everything, an M1 Garand, 9.5 pounds of wood and steel, and you learned to strip it and rebuild it blind. But the Corps could not fill Korea from active duty alone, so it reached for the organized reserve, about 40,000 men scattered across the country. On the 30th of June, Congress stripped away the protection those reservists thought they had. Many of them were Second World War veterans. They had jobs, wives, children, mortgages. They had already done Iwo Jima and Okinawa. They had gone home, and now they were being called back to do it again in a country most of them could not find on a map. Here is where the job gets strange. A brand new private earned $75 a month for his first 4 months. A private first class made $82.50. A sergeant made $117.60. The lieutenant leading your platoon made $213. $75 a month comes out to $900 a year, at a time when the average American worker was earning somewhere around $3,000. The friends who stayed home and took the shift at the factory were out earning these men 3-to-1. You were paid in cash, in a line, with an officer at a table and a ledger. And combat pay did not exist yet. Congress created it in 1952, which means every man who fought at the chosen reservoir was paid exactly the same as a Marine standing a gate in California. The Corps assembled what it could and moved fast. On the 7th of July, the 1st Provisional Marine Brigade was activated at Camp Pendleton. 4,700 men. 1 week later they sailed, and on the 3rd of August they landed at Pusan and went straight into the line. They picked up a nickname in about 3 weeks, the Fire Brigade. Whenever a section of the perimeter broke, they got trucked to it. After a month of that, the brigade was down to roughly 4,290 men. Then came Incheon in September, an amphibious landing through 30-foot tides and a seawall men climbed with ladders. Then Seoul, street by street. Everyone was saying it was almost over. Men were talking openly about being home for Christmas. They were sent north instead. In late November, a cold front came down out of Siberia into the mountains around the Chosin Reservoir. Daytime highs sat around 5 degrees below zero. Nights went to 35 below and lower. About 15,000 men found themselves surrounded by 120,000.
Now think about the job hour by hour. Your rations froze solid in the can, so men carried tins against their bodies for hours, just trying to make them chewable. Jeep batteries froze and split. Radios would not start. Gun lubricants thickened into gel, and springs stiffened, so automatic weapons stopped cycling, and there are accounts of Marines fighting hand-to-hand with rifle butts because the mechanism in their hands went silent. The medical situation was worse. Morphine syrettes froze, so corpsmen thawed them in their own mouths before injecting a wounded man. Blood plasma froze and became useless. Cutting a man's clothing away to reach a wound risked giving him frostbite on top of the wound. The order came to break out and move south. 70 miles of mountain road, cut by roadblocks, held at both ends. Major General Oliver P. Smith gave the line that outlived him, that they were not retreating, they were attacking in a different direction. The division moved out as a unit, in order, carrying its wounded and its dead and most of its equipment. At Funchalen Pass, the Chinese blew the bridge, with a vertical drop underneath and no way around, so the Air Force parachuted bridge sections in, and Marine engineers built a new one on the mountainside while the column waited. On the 11th of December, they reached the port of Hungnam. Navy medical personnel had treated more than 7,300 casualties. And then these men came home to a country that was not really paying attention. There were no parades. Korea was never declared a war. It was called a police action, and it competed for the front page with a booming economy and a new television in the living room. Men who had been at Chosin came home to towns where people politely asked where they had been. The Korean War GI Bill passed in 1952, 2 years after they shipped out, and it put them through college and into homes. The Marine Corps got its permanent status settled by Congress, because after Chosin nobody was arguing anymore about whether it should exist. And among themselves, the men who were at the reservoir took a name and kept it for the rest of their lives. The Chosin Few. $75 a month. No combat pay. Boots that froze your feet while you walked. Food you could not eat. A rifle that might not fire. And 15,000 men who were told by the largest army on Earth that they were finished, and who walked 70 miles through it carrying their wounded. If you found this story interesting, hit subscribe and leave a like so more people can find this video. I'll see you in the next one.